Alright guys, TacticalRab again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. A potential start date for the CDL has been leaked with an event name and city location going down as well. Potentially December again, as we saw the most recent season, but this might not be Major 1. That might mean that Major 1 actually begins again in January, which could mean that we have a longer season and chances a little bit later in the year. Lots to dive into today. Very much enjoy to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. First of all though, we've got to discuss the official confirmation yesterday that the London Royal Ravens are no more, and it's officially the Carolina, still Royal Ravens. It doesn't make any sense to me, but whatever. And look, this is how the landscape of the CDL now sits. Back in, let's say, 2018, when the Call of Duty World League was still around, 16 teams, 10 NA, 4 AU, 2 from APAC, and now, as, you know, to be fair, some would have predicted over the last few years, we now have this situation where there's 12 franchises, there is one in Toronto still, right? So there is, you know, it's not just the USA, but I mean, come on. So here we go, official confirmation yesterday by the Carolina Royal Ravens. Like, I actually really rather like the branding here. I think it's, okay, apart from the Ravens part, like, I actually kind of like the color scheme and everything they've got going on, but I just don't know why, and they've tried to keep the royal thing going by saying that it's like the Queen City, right, Charlotte, which, sure, okay, and I'm sure that they tried to find ways that they could make the Ravens bit work as well, but yeah, I'm surprised they didn't really bother to try a rebrand here. Maybe it was just too much effort, or they didn't think it was going to work, because the Royal Ravens, it just doesn't make that much sense with Carolina, and it was a brand that I quite liked for London, but yeah, in this case, I don't really get it. I also don't really understand why they need to relocate the cities. I mean, it just makes the whole city-based thing feel so irrelevant when you have cities just moving around and teams moving around all the time. It's like, what's even the point of it being city-based anymore when you're just going to go from London to Carolina? Vegas are going to go from Paris to Vegas. Chicago, of course, they don't have a a team anymore, right, based there after what happened with the Huntsman and then OpTic Chicago a couple of years ago. And I'm not exactly sure what they intend to achieve by relocating anyway. I guess, theoretically, maybe you open yourself up to a different market and more sponsored maybe, but I don't really get the plan. And to be honest, the organization's so broke, they weren't going to host an event anywhere. They're not going to host an event in London. They're not going to host an event in Charlotte. But anyway, there you go, your Carolina Royal Ravens. And as I say, apart from the fact that it's still the Royal Ravens, which I don't really get, to be honest, I actually quite like the blue. Is kind of sexy, to be fair. They've got this crown as well. Now, you know, they've put the crown in the middle of the bird rather than, like, they could have, I don't know, people say they should put the crown on the bird's head or something just to joke around a little bit. So anyway, they were discussing about this, and I thought it was kind of entertaining. But yeah, it's obviously a sad day for European COD fans, and especially UK COD fans that liked to at least have a London team. And it also means that players like, you know, Nasty, Beans, Wardy, like whatever they could have done with building a UK roster next season, seems doubtful they might do that now in Carolina. It's just going to become another one of these just bottom 4 franchise teams until the CDL collapses, at which point probably we're going to have a rather different story on our hands. And as players like Waskin are saying, that of course played for London a couple of years ago, crazy to see what we once had, sad to see no UK teams left. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we were saying, damn, okay, when expansion comes through, let's do a Manchester team, or, you know. And also the funny thing is that we do have a Spanish team in the Miami Heretics, but it's not even based in Spain, you know. It's not even Madrid, it's Miami. It's like, come on. It's kind of tragic how this has all worked out. And also it means that I knew that someone was going to tweet this out. Jake Hale decided to, the Noah Lyles thing about world champions or what. And okay, technically there's a Canadian team, and it's not like it matters anyway, right? Obviously all the best players in the world are in the CDL, but it is just pretty funny to think about. Now then the question is, what players are they going to sign? Because as I've mentioned, I don't expect them to go down this whole UK team route anymore. Like, you know, bring back Zero's now retired, but, you know, I don't think they're going to bother doing that anymore, even though it might be a good option for them. They're probably just going to become the new Vegas or the new Los Angeles Gunners maybe for this season, and just pay the minimums for, whatever team they can put together. So there's plenty of players that are available right now for the Ravens that are now in Carolina with this kind of new logo logo. And as I say, like, they've got, this is their logo. They've also got the ravens with the, you know, the bird still and the crown in between it. It's a bit strange, their branding, but I don't personally hate it. I just think that it's frustrating. Now, as I said yesterday, I don't think that it necessarily changes the likelihood of a European or a London event. In order for that to happen, it has to be the CDL putting that on anywhere. And with the rumours we're going to discuss in a few minutes here, it's quite likely that, you know, it's not going to be the kickoff in London. So that kind of leaves Champs in London as the only other possibility. So we'll see about that. Now, there are some players looking at this spot potentially. Standy is maybe one. He says new beginnings here. And we also get this from Clayster. Now, I don't know. I thought maybe Clay was from Virginia. I might just be completely wrong about this. I think that he might have some family, though, in South Carolina. I'm not exactly sure. But this does seem to be a little something from Clay to be like, you know, hey, like, check your DMs type thing. Because, as I said a few weeks ago now, Clay was actually linked to London when they were the London Royal Ravens way back in the 2020 season for Modern Warfare 19. That didn't happen. Goes to Dallas, wins Champs. But now maybe there's a chance for that to happen as well, especially with Los Angeles Grillers maybe very much taking their time on the saga. So anyway, that's your update on that. It's, yeah, kind of a sad day, really. But as I say, this is just one more step towards the city-based thing being entirely irrelevant. I don't even see what the point of it is anymore. There's been rumours for some time they're going to drop it soon, and some teams might keep it, some teams might not, but then Microsoft might come in and change their mind entirely. So, you know, I don't think the CDL is long for this world, to be honest. A lot of these changes that have been made over the last little while, but we will have at least one more season of play, and that will begin, according to Jake Hell, in Atlanta, December 15th through to the 17th. So this is what he says last night. CDL Major 1, 2023-2024. This might be the first event of the season. So DreamHack Atlanta is an event which will be ongoing, and if they are discussing about potentially hosting the event alongside it or at DreamHack Atlanta, that might make a fair bit of sense, in the same way that like CWL Birmingham 2018 was held at Insomnia 62, I believe it was. So, you know, that's kind of how things can and maybe should be done. And if they, well, DreamHack Atlanta will happen on those dates, and if they're heavily considering and have had conversations about hosting the event at the same time at that venue, then you'd think that it's pretty likely it's going to happen. Now, the question is, to me, will this be Major 1 or will this be a kickoff event before the Major 1 cycle begins? And I actually prefer the latter option, and I'll explain why. Mainly because I don't think there's any chance that the CDL decide to commit any more resources and actually do 6 majors. Jake actually then goes on in the replies and says, changing some wording on this because the event from his then understanding might not be a major, but it is being targeted as a location. So he reckons that actually there's a significant chance that it could be like a kickoff, pro-am, open event that isn't technically classed as a major before the season begins. Now, some would say, oh, this is terrible. Like, you know, don't do a kickoff and then make us wait a few weeks for the legit season to actually begin. I don't mind this so much. Also, it's a 3-day event, which does mean that you can't run the traditional major format we've had recently has been, you know, 4 days of the play, and you get the teams that qualify, 8 teams start and winners, 4 start and losers. You run it from there over 4 days, and that, I imagine, will be the format we continue with for the rest of the season, with the events that are held by other teams and, you know, resources committed as a result. Now, for this event, it's a 3-day event, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. This can definitely be done. This is how events used to be back in the day. There used to be multiple streams, multiple games happening at the same time, and you can make this work. If you want to make this work with one stream, you probably need either a lot of games going on a day, which is probably implausible, or do single elimination, which also isn't great. So I imagine that they might have to come up with some sort of different format here for the CDL to do this in 3 days, and that leans me towards believing that it's not going to be Major 1, but it's more likely going to be a kickoff event, because from what I heard, the league is starting in January. So to now see that we've got an event in December is, to me, a positive sign. Still not ideal, and we'll discuss that in a second, but I think this is more likely to be a kickoff than a major as far as I'm concerned. Now, my ideal format would be, the game launches in November. I think the first month is, you know, kickoff tournaments, stuff like this, learn the game. Start of December, the season should begin in an ideal world. Just like it did last year, right? We had right at the start of December, we had 2 weeks of qualifiers, and then we had Major 1 last year in Raleigh, which was like a pro-am kind of kickoff, but it was technically Major Major 1 last season, and of course, the New York Subliners managed to win. There was 2 weeks of qualifiers before that. They couldn't do 3 weeks because the timing simply didn't work, because they played 4 qualification matches, I believe, each, and that then led into the seeding for the Major. But the issue is with that, and it's good, right, that the season starts in December. Like, there should not be more than a month, really, between the game launching and the start of the scene. Otherwise, the hype dies down way too much and you fail to capitalize on the potential. The problem is that the CDL, I don't think, is going to be putting on 6 events plus champs. I don't think that any particular more organizations, maybe Miami, come in and they want to host an event this season, but I don't expect them to expand their budgets, especially with the Microsoft thing coming in and the CDL just trying to lean out its operations, as are pretty much all of esports. I don't expect them to step up from 5 majors to 6, but I feel like almost everyone last season after the Toronto major at the end of May thought, damn, if we just had one more major cycle here, right, one more set of qualifiers and then a major and then champs in like early August, that would have been a really good season, especially because there wasn't any crazy stupid break for no reason last season. This was the issue with the Vanguard year, was that sure, champs was later, the season also started a bit later with a kickoff event in January, but they had that random month off in the middle of the season for no reason at all, which just killed a lot of the momentum. And look, the players, sure, they need some time off, but I'd prefer that time off to be between majors. So my preference would be a Major 1 cycle in December, and then as soon as January comes around, the Major 2 cycle begins, and then do 6 majors. I also think that between each major, so you do 3 weeks of qualifiers, I don't mind the current format we have, 3 weeks of qualifiers, then the major, and then take 2 weeks off. I think the 2 weeks off means that the season extends a little bit, it gives the players a bit of time to breathe, and it also gives the teams a lot of chances to actually consider whether they want to make some changes between each of the majors. So yeah, but as I say, I don't think that they're going to expand to 6 majors, so I'm actually kind of keen for the first major to start in January, because as we saw this last year, right at the start of February was Major 2, which meant that by the time we get to Major 5 and Champs, it's in like mid-June, and that to me is way too early. Like, we've basically got a 6 months off season at that point. To me, the off season should be 3 months. I think we should have 9 months of play, December through to August, then September is all the teams make changes, basically Rostermania happens, October can be a legit month off, and then November the game launches and we go again. That I think is the way to do it, and the ideal way to achieve that to me is to have events in December, and then 5 majors throughout the next year with a 2-week break in between all of them, plus champs. That is roughly 32 weeks into the new year, which is pretty much middle of August time. So that's the way that I would like to see it done, and ideally you then bring in a 6th major, which is in December, which is what we might be getting, but as a kickoff instead. So yeah, basically what I'm saying is, if this is what they do, I'm actually pretty happy with this. A kickoff event in Atlanta, and then 5 majors plus champs in the new year should give us a reasonable length season, although we don't get any action until December the 15th, which is, it must be said, only a month after, really, because, you know, the game launches, what, November the 10th or something? So pretty much a month after launch, there'll be an event, probably a kickoff of some sort with some weird formats, but hopefully an open event as well, and it can be better than nothing. And then the actual major cycle begins in the new year, which should take us to at least champs being in, you know, late July, if not August, which I think is definitely preferable. Now, before we close out the video, I wanted to mention the Stallion Showdown, which is going on tonight. Black Ops 3 Throwback Tournament. Well excited for this one. 10k to first place, 8 teams, CDL pros, invite only, double elim, hardpoint, uplink, search and destroy, man. I will be there. Exciting stuff. These are the teams, by the way. So similar to what we saw kind of revealed yesterday, there are a few that will gather the attention here, especially Drazah and Cell's team, Simp and aBeZy's team. Like, both of these teams are going to be pretty damn nasty, and it could be an all FaZe finals. I think this Asim team is worth looking at as well, because they've been grinding a lot lately. Illy's team could absolutely not be overlooked, as with plenty of these other ones. No Shotzzy, unfortunately, so it's going to be Kenny with Attach, Envoy, and Arcetes. So Shotzzy pulled out, or was never going to happen. And I believe this team is possibly Zuma's like cousin Vinny, is it? He has like another challengers team for this year that he's putting in this. So I guess we'll see how they get on, because I'm imagining that's what that is down here. So yeah, these are the teams. Very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.